So we're going to install a 10-inch Solitude in a bathroom. Here we go. Materials: Just Frost diffuser, Fusion diffuser, and softening and clear effects lens. Bottom tube, drop cloth, trash can. Okay, we put down our drop cloth. We've separated our diffusers, our softening effects lens, and our clear effects lens. We have our bottom tube prepped to go up, and our trash can. Now we're going to find where we're going to cut the hole. After talking with the customers, we want to center between the bathroom vent and the mirror, and we want to be centered on the mirror. So we're going to pull some numbers and go from there. Mirror is centered on 30, 60 inches, half of that 30. The vent is centered on 37. So we're going to split those two numbers and come in at 33 and a half. And then we're 44 to the vent. So we're going to be 22. Is our half mark, and that's our mark. Now we're going to look for trusses to see if we have to adjust our point. Okay, so our trusses are far enough away, more than 5.5 inches, which is our number for the 10-inch. Okay, pause. Okay, so now we're going to probe our hole and find out if we have any obstacles in the attic. Centering on our mark, drilling a probe hole. 10-inch probe. We're going to spin at the sheetrock to make sure we don't have any trusses or anything in our way. And then we're going to slowly climbing, feeling inside the insulation and into the attic for any wiring, bathroom vents, gas lines, or dead rats. Clear. Now we're going to cut our hole. Circle trace. We're going to set it to 10.5 inches. Now our probe hole here is a 1/4-inch hole that we just probed. I'm going to set this inside that and score. Okay, now we take Sawzall cut. Generally, we wear dust masks during this part. But so I can talk to you on the video, we're not. Now we've pushed the hole up, and we're letting it sit there. We're going to lift our trash can up, slowly sliding our cut out in line with the trusses. And we're going to gently wave our hand, helping the insulation to fall. Now we're going to pull the insulation number For our notes, we have 16 inches. Insulation is in good state. Now, going to look up the hole for the point of our probe. I'm going to prep our probe. Using our long drill bit. And we'll be probing the hole. A view up the hole.
No.
Now we're going to probe our hole in the attic. We're going to send up our long drill bit, our rigid drill bit. We're going to look up the hole, trying to center in the bay above us and get a little bit of a southern angle. By going back and forth, we'll leave a little dust up there so we can find the hole in the roof. Now we set the tube into the hole. This is to keep the dust from falling down into the room and give us a measurement point later. We're just going to put it up temporarily using the flags, screws, making sure it'll just sit there. Doesn't have to do much, just has to sit there. Now we're ready to go on the roof. Okay, now we're going to get onto the roof. First thing, we get our ladder secure. We make sure that our strap is holding the ladder on securely. And we make sure the fur that we've placed on the inside of the ladder is touching and that no metal is touching, so we make no scrapes. We enter the roof safely. Take your time, make more trips up and down the ladder if necessary. Do not overload yourself on the ladder. Let's get up top. Okay, now that we're on the roof, we're going to look for our hole. Our bathroom hole will have a little bit of dust around it and a probe through the roof. Pretty easy to find. That's why we went up and down with the drill bit multiple times. I'm going to exit so we don't lose it. Now we're going to take the flashing. And we're going to center it up for trace. In this particular install, we want to be aware of anything around our hole. We have a bathroom vent and we have an exhaust vent. So we want to make sure that we're upslope. So we're going to go upslope a little bit. Now we trace the hole with our crayon. There we go. Now we take our Sawzall, check for fresh blade. We're going to make our cut. Our circle's been traced. We're going to make our cut. We're going to make our cut a 1/2 inch outside of our line. To do that, we're going to use our guide on our Sawzall. You can take a peek and a look around, make sure our tube is where it needs to be and we don't have any obstacles in our way that we haven't foreseen. Now we take our shim bar, make our selection which layer of shingles we want to enter. We're going to go in this layer, it's closest to here, without totally burying our flashing. We're going to be gentle to try to enter without ripping apart the shingles. Okay, now we're going to feel for nails, and we have a mark on our bar in 2 different locations for the over, how much the flashing is going to be over. So you got to make sure we're clear to those marks. Okay, so we found our nails, the staples. We're going to go into each layer and pull them. Okay, we seem to be clear. So now we're going to check with flashing. We're clear. Now we're going to press the glue. We're going to clear all the dust out of our way. We're going to make a small snip on the edges of our shingles here, opening the channel a little bit bigger. Then we're going to glue. This is the underside of the flashing. We've left a small channel, so if any condensation gets onto the flashing, it'll have a way to drain out. Now we do the same. Set our flashing, sending it up, lifting it up until we're ready, until it looks perfect, and we set it. Do a little fine adjustments. Make sure the flashing squares up to the shingles. And make sure that there is a bit of a channel above the flashing. Say 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Now we're going to set the screws. Okay, now we're going to do minor cleanup. We're going to wipe down our tools, specifically looking for goobers. Now I'm going to pull my roof gloves, as they might have got a little bit of glue on them. Start dealing with our top tube. We're going to try to match the angle right from the start and spin the upper unit so we have screws on 4 points. And we're going to set it all the way down on the flashing. We're going to get a measurement. Looking down the tube. Looking down the tube. Can't see anything. We're taking our measurement from sidewall to sidewall. Case here is 46 inches. Always double check your numbers. $46. Okay, now we're going to attempt to set the angle for the tube. We've now given it a little bit of angle. We're going to use the tape measure as a straight edge along our high side slope, matching the natural slope of the unit and sending it down. Right now our angle is a little bit too little, close. So we're going to adjust the angle. And we're going to recenter this. I'm going to see if this angle works. Using the tape measure again as a straight edge. And that is good. Now we're going to peel. Looking down the tube to make sure we're centered perfectly, then adjusting the trim ring, four corners again. Now we're going to check to make sure everything is secure. All screws are there. Pull up on the flashing a little. Now we're going to take the dome, putting the reflector on the north side of the roof, making sure we find our south, just like that, and making sure that we're angled appropriately. Secure the snap of the dome, wiggle it, pull on it a little, make sure it's fully secure. Now we're going to finalize by sealing over our screws and making sure all our seal has been set. We can use our sealant as a glue gun in this case and glue our flashing or our shingles down. And we're going to cover the screws. I think this is more for looks. It's nice to have an all black flashing. And we're going to stamp, make sure everything sets correctly without getting glue on our shoes. Cap the gun and put everything away. Okay, our roof side number was 46 inches small. We add 4 inches to that to make it 50 inches for overlap of the top tube and the bottom tube. We have our extension, 2 24-inch pieces, and 1 12-inch. This is a cutoff of our 24. Now we assemble the tube. We set our overlap. Inside the outside unit. Set our start of our tape. Make sure the seam is still set. The leg seal. We're using a roller to help roll that out. Then we peel the tube. To peel the tube, you push in on the seam just ever so slightly. so that you can peel the plastic off the inside. Make sure we're clear. Clear? On our next tube, we're going to do it a different way by pre-peeling the insides of the seams. This way you don't have to try so hard on the next part. We're done. Clear. Last unit. We're going to take our cut side, marked here. We're going to make that our inside edge. So at the inside, this unit's going to have a stronger taper, and we want to be aware of that. We're going to isolate the taper of the tubes. This can be a trick the first times you do this, and I'm pretty easy at doing it, and I did an example it earlier. So overlap. We set the bottom tube all the way in. Our middle part we set so no flags are stopping it and start in. At our top part, we push on the inner flag and set it. And we move back, and if you look, the bottom side just popped out. So we have to re-push it in. Using just a little bit of tension on the tube, just to kind of spring load it. Now we've assembled, I'm going to lose the taper, but you can see I'm doing it with no hands at this point. The taper will pretty much stay, but when you move to tape, make sure your bottom end is fully tapered correctly. Take the tape and tape both sides. Seal it with your finger. That will temporarily hold it while you roll the tape out. Then as you come up to the top, I'm pulling in with my two hands just ever so slightly, making sure there's tension between the metal. Then I come up here and I use the straight edge of the metal to cut. It also begins to tape. Then I set the tape. Then I give a few points of setting the tape so it will hold the tube together while I roll it and get the tape fully set. Then I'm trying to roll out the bubbles. Now we're solid. You can look on the inside at our taper. That's our small side, and that's our large side. Now we're going to assemble our tubes for the length. Small side, big side. Small side, big side. I personally like to put the seam of my lower tube, the one I'm sliding into, down below, and I put this seam up top. Then I slide them in ever so slightly, and begin to work them around. Sometimes they'll get hung up on something. Just gotta work it. Now they're sliding in. You'll notice our black marks. These mark 2 inches. That's how far we want to overlap. Now we set our piece of tape. We get a reasonable amount of tape set. We start to roll it. Now we roll out the bubbles. Okay. Gonna grab our final piece, small side, big side. Same as before. This is going to be a little harder to slide in because it's a shorter tube. Once we get it started, we move it in a little. Now we take out our tape measure. we pull our distance. If you remember, our long length is going to be 50 inches. So we're going to shove our top tube in. 51. 50 and a half. 50 and a half. And 50 and a quarter, that's good enough. This is going to have overlaps, so it doesn't really matter too much about a 1/4 inch. Take the final piece. Now we're going to set our fur bushing. We have a black line here. This marks 2 inches. This should be about the distance of our overlap with the top tube. The fur has to be within that. I'm going to start peeling the fur and get it started. Now, I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch of tube above. This allows the tube to slide up into the top tube more easily. I'm peeling the tape as I'm rolling this out. Now we're going to pull our top unit so we can assemble the full tube in one piece. Now we're going to peel this tube. I'm just scoring the edge there to make it easier to start peeling. I'm going to push down into the gap, into the seam here. Now again, I like my seam being on the bottom for whatever reason, and this seam being on the top. I use my knee to get the two merged and slide in. We're going to that black line again, the 2 inch mark. We're going to grab our tape. And tape our seam. Now we're going to tube screw this unit together for added security. We're going to place our legs between. Now we're going to send the tube up into the other tube. First, we're going to look up, make sure our angles are looking correct. We're going to estimate the angle of this tube. We might want to give it a little angle to begin with for the estimation. Now we've kept the plastic on down here so that any touching we do here is not going to mess up the Spectralite. I'm looking up the tube, seeing if my angle's correct. I'm thinking I need a little more angle. Okay, I'm going to begin to send it up. Okay, I've begun to seat it with that first 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to make sure that this is pretty square to the ceiling. In this case, it is pretty darn square. Now I'm going to send it up. seating it all the way to the sheetrock. And then I'm going to jiggle this back and forth a little until the angles adjust themselves ever so slightly and make a flush mount onto the ceiling. I'm going to check it with my hand and make sure it's flush mounted. Then I'm going to set our flag screws. And make sure all the flag screws set. I did. Our tube is now sealed. Our last portion that we'll do is try out our different choices of diffusers to see which the customer likes the most. Now we're going to do a cleanup in the bathroom and prep for the diffuser.